Hello and welcome to Space Engineers on the Xbox, on the Series X. It's been a while. It's been quite a while since I've done a Space Engineers video, really. What I wanted to do for 2026 is to go back to the beginning, really, where I started quite a few years ago now. It'll be probably, 6 years or so this year, and it's been a ride, and we've seen a lot of changes to the game. We've seen a lot of DLC as well. Every one of them I've picked up as time's gone on, and as they've released each update. You can see under my Space Engineers name there's a whole bunch of them, and yours may not look like mine because you may be missing a pre-order pack that came out when it was released onto the Xbox. So this is now Space Engineers in 2026 on the Xbox Series X. And without further ado, we're going to just look at some of the things that are different, because it's changed since I did my original tutorial. So this first tutorial here serves as the beginning of a whole slew of new ones, which I'll stick up on their own 2026 playlist, so you won't even have to poke around and try and work out what's what. From going forward, this will be the new way that I do things. I'm going to start from scratch because the drop pod has gone. Anyway, let's jump into the options. Starting with game, you may notice that there's a few different things. We've still got experimental mode. I highly recommend having that ticked. Control hints is always useful. Turn off the good bot hints. Leave trading on. You need to check this to be able to use a lot of the online, and you need to ensure that you've consented to mod.io for mods. Area interaction is quite useful. It means that you basically don't have to interact with certain objects. They just have to be close within the crosshair for you to interact with them. Blueprint sharing, obviously, very useful if you want to download somebody else's ship, if they've made a sweet ship and you want to bring it on after you've looked at where they to download it. We'll deal with all that in coming tutorials, but mostly it's remained the same from the original release, so you can go back and look if you so desire. This is the newest one, which is mute every broadcast controller in the game. If you're fed up of the broadcast controllers sending messages everywhere, you could just mute the lot. Then in the UI section, we have some crosshair colouring, the hit types and so on. Nothing that you really need to bother changing or messing about with, though. And then if you've made any changes whatsoever, for instance, you've toggled experimental mode on, do not press B. Press X and lock those changes in. Moving on, audio. Now, what I tend to do here is I tend to untick the speed-based ship sound, because I often want the realistic sound, and I leave everything else as is. On your controls, leave controllers, leave this all default unless you want to tweak some of the numbers. You can change the control scheme from classic to flight alternative. I leave it all as is. And then you've finally got the credits. Moving swiftly on, we want to look at our new game. So we hit new game, and this is the biggest change from the original UI. This is a much cleaner UI, a lot easier to get into. So you've got your sandbox maps with the home system, distant worlds, distant moons, sparks of the future, Pertam Orbiter, Asteroid Armory, Empty World, Redshift V2, and back to the home system. Now, some of this may not be on yours, depending on what you own DLC-wise as well, or what you've downloaded. You can go online to the Space Engineers website and download a bunch of extra free stuff, scenarios and the like. Then there's story scenarios. I do recommend, if you've never played Space Engineers, give Learning to Survive a crack. Give it a go. If you want some PvE action, you can do Never Surrender. And then if you've got Frostbite, you can download and play Frostbite, which is one of their scenarios. No other scenarios have been released to this sort of date. Only Frostbite has made it across. Then you have the PvP scenarios, which I ignore because I don't do the PvP, but they're there if you want to play. Then some original content, starting Earth base, Moon base, Mars, crashed red ship, the old red ship, the Green Station, which is an old station from way back in Space Engineers on PC, Lone Survivor, First Jump. That is another great one to play around with to learn how to play the game again. And then there's the community content. Here you can find all of the stuff you may have downloaded, or you can browse the community itself. I won't dive into this too deeply right now. Then we're going to go, back. Sandbox, I think. Let's look at just home system. This has the Earth-like planet and the moon and so on. So you can customize or you can start it. So we're going to hit customize. And here it's almost like the old style UI, but we've got a bunch of extra things we can do right from the start rather than having to mess about with loading the save back into the game and changing the settings that way. So to begin with, you can have survival, creative, online or offline mode. The max players, you can have auto saves. Now I tend to turn auto saves off myself because I prefer to save on my own terms, because when you're doing a tutorial there's nothing more annoying than kind of auto saving when things go wrong and having to try and get back to a save. You can choose your mods. I have one mod I would run, which is a skybox mod. So if you click choose mods, it will open up the mod browser, and on the left hand side you'll see I have the Queen of Heaven skybox. If I press A, that will put it in that box there as the active mods, and I press X again, and now I have an active mod. I can change the multipliers on the assembly, the refiner speed, my character inventory size, grinding speed, welding speed, the view distance, the floating object limit, max box per players, ignore all that. And we come down to important things like you can enable lightning damage if you want. You can enable or disable weather, the sun rotation, radiation, which is the brand new system added with one of the updates recently. If you don't want that on, you can turn that off, and you can then set the day duration. You could leave it at that, or you can knock it down to whatever you want. You can change the normal amount of asteroids. If you don't want asteroids on, you can turn them off, but I wouldn't, because they're a useful source of things. Meteors, on the other hand, you can turn those off if you're fed up of your base getting pinged by them. your world size, sound mode. If you change it from arcade to realistic, that's where we changed the setting before. You can ignore solar radiation, and then you can look at a bunch of the survival settings. You'll enable auto healing, auto respawn, jetpack. Now you can turn auto respawn off because then you can choose where to respawn. Spawn with tools, spawn distance. Now if you turn this to virtually nothing, you'll spawn closer to your friend if you're playing multiplayer. You can have food consumption in this, so yes, there is farming and food and hunting the saberoids and the wolves for their meat, and collecting other things like the bushes and so on. You can get buffs, you can get reduced stats when you respawn, and then you look at your encounters and NPC section. There's cargo ships, drones, economy, random encounters, planetary encounters, spiders, NPC limit, global encounter cap, random encounter density, then combat and PvP. You have destructible blocks, bounty contracts, weapons, then some stuff to do with the broadcasting system, spectator camera, thruster damage, all of this. Then your experimental settings. Now, even though you've got experimental mode active, this is where we need to check some things, which is all of this really. Just change all that, and then you've got your total PCU at the bottom, and that's the performance cost units in the world on a Series X. 400,000 is now the maximum you can have. We were up to 500,000 before. It was originally tested by a few people, including myself. We could get a Series X up to 1 million PCU without too much problem, but obviously Keen have decided that this is the safest place so your console doesn't melt. And then there's super gridding, which basically, if you check this, then you'll be able to use the super gridding grids that people make on mod.io, but you can only super grid properly on a PC. It's not really worth talking about super gridding on console because we just can't do it. It's a specific method that's quite complicated, requires the use of a computer, and yeah, it's not something you should really worry about when you get started. And that's it really for your custom settings and so on. You can go through the whole game and you can mess around with all this. So once you've got that, you can even change the name of your save once you're happy with what you've done. But first, we're just going to hit start. I'm not going to play this through the entirety, but I wanted to show you how the game now starts up, because things have changed from the original. So, for a start, you can now spawn in the Earth-like drop pod, Moon, Mars, and space. Well, the Earth-like drop pod once the thing kicks in, is actually not a drop pod anymore. That's right. We have a drop rover. So, right from the start, we have our rover. camera back. And there it is. So this is our beginning. We've arrived in a rather pretty place, which will allow us to do quite a lot of things. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to hit pause. We're going to go save. Hit A. And then we're going to quit out to the main menu. And again, you can save before quitting if you want. Go to the load game menu, and you'll now see that we have the home system right there. And now you can press X on that, and you can edit it. You can then press Y, and you can now open up your advanced world settings again and tweak anything that you don't like for the purposes of getting used to the game. Press X once you're happy, and that's it. So this is the first 2026 look at Space Engineers on the Xbox. And if you know how to play it on the Xbox, you can use Xbox tutorials to help you play it on the PlayStation as well. So if you're a PlayStation player, don't worry about it just being for the Xbox. You can use my tutorials, even the old ones, to get to grips with the game. There's still a lot of valid advice there. There's still a lot of valid systems that still work, and over time they've just tweaked the way things work. The biggest change that we'll discuss in the next one, which will be on the Sunday, is the radial. I need to go through this with you because even I find it not confusing, not difficult to get used to, just different to get used to, because everything has changed there. Until then, though, stay safe, take care, have fun, enjoy the game. It's fun to be back. It feels great to be back. Hopefully, I pick up some more subscribers and some people who might be looking to grab the game. And if that's you, then welcome. If you're a long-time subscriber or just a lurker, well, if you're lurking, feel free to subscribe. If you're a long-time subscriber, then thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with me on this journey. Even though I don't do this as regularly as I used to, I still find pleasure in doing it and helping people. And that's all I wanted to say, really. Cheers. Bye for now.